And so your boss doesn't want to see removal on the water mitigation estimate, and they also see removal on your estimate. That's amateur hour. You don't want to do that. Hey everybody, this is Andy with Patterson Adjuster Training. In this video, we're going to talk about flood cuts. I've had this question before, is why do they normally do a flood cut at 2 foot and then 4 foot? Well, it's a simple answer. It's because this drywall comes in 4x8 sheets. And so when you have flood damage, you have water which leaches up the drywall, and depending on how long the drywall has been sitting in the water, it's going to leach up some. Generally what you're going to see is the water, you have a water loss, the water mitigation company comes in there and does a flood cut, and they take out all the drywall, they take out the insulation, if there's any insulation behind here. And as an adjuster, we want to write accurate estimates. And so what's going to happen is you don't need to include this removal on your estimate because it's already taken into account on the water mitigation estimate. And for our example, the water mitigation company has already come out and they did their 2 foot flood cut. So this is already gone. All you're going to see is studs here. And so on your estimate, you'll want to put the replacement drywall back on there. So you'll just do replace only. So something to consider. Let's say this wall has texture on it. So when the drywallers come in, they're going to take this off. They're going to tape this off, and then they're going to put a coat of mud on, let that dry, put another coat of mud on, let that dry, and then maybe a third coat to feather that in so it all looks real nice. Now, by the time they get done, their texture, their drywall texture and their joint compound is probably going to come up to about right here. So even though this is 2 foot, you need to allow for another foot up here. And so on your texturing, you're going to allow for 3 feet versus 2 feet, because when you put this new drywall on, it doesn't have any texture. When they feather it in, by the time they get done finishing out this drywall or floating it out, that new joint compound is going to come up to here. And so you've got 3 feet of drywall that needs texture on it. Now, you'll also need to do something with the paint. Now this wall up here has been unaffected, and most homes have at least 2 coats of paint on the walls. Now if they're older, they may have up to 5 or 6 coats of paint, but in our example we're going to act like this unaffected wall has 2 coats of paint. This new drywall and joint compound has no paint on it, so we need to add 2 coats of paint, a seal coat and a top coat. Now when we get that done, this has 2 coats of paint, this has 2 coats of paint, and then the final thing we need to do is put a coat of paint on everything. So let me just recap. You're going to replace the 2 foot of drywall all the way around. When you allow for floating it out or texturing it, you're going to allow another foot above this cut line to feather it in. And then when you do the paint, you're going to seal and paint this everything below this 3 foot line, and then you're going to put a coat of paint on everything. So what I just went over is the proper way to handle flood cuts. Now if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe, the bell notification, and like the video, and I will see you in the next one.